Indiana, you went to Wisconsin one time, I think at the end of the COVID year. Can you just speak to the what you just mentioned, the hostile atmosphere, the crowd noise, et cetera?
Well, there's no fans at the game for that game. So,
That's right.
yeah, I've been there a few times as a player too when I was a player, and so I just think it's a program that loves football. The fans are very passionate, and it's a tremendous environment to play and compete in. And that's a credit to their fan base and the pride that they have in that state for that program. And so it'll be a challenge for sure, and one we're excited for.
So the middle of the room, none of the greats.
Coach, as far as Jalen's presence in the pocket, what do you see that's working, and where do you want to see growth headed into week 3?
Well, I think he did some nice things the other night as far as avoiding some rush and creating some plays. And I think there's other times where, we're looking for him to try to get the ball out of his hands, when there's opportunities that present themselves that way. So, I don't think any two plays are the same. I think every situation, you're just continuing to try to teach and point out, opportunities to just stay away from some negative plays that way. And sometimes, there's not much the quarterback can do. But in the opportunities where we feel like maybe he could have made a different choice or decision, we just talk through that. Obviously these are split-second decisions, and he made a lot of great plays for us. And there's a couple where, hey, maybe if you got the ball out here, or you threw the ball here, or whatever it may be. And so that happens every game. I think he's been receptive to that, and acknowledges and recognizes each and every game opportunities for improvement. And I thought there was a lot of great moments for him, in that regard in the game as well.
Go left side, Steven.
Coach, obviously he has the speed, but when you watch Jam Milroe run with the power and the passion that he does, what does that bring the team, especially on that explosive run last week?
Yeah, I think, Jam is just a tough kid, very competitive. He's not the tallest player, but he's, built. And he has power, and he has quickness, and he is a tough tackle. And so none of the things that have shown up in the first 2 games is a surprise to anybody in our building, because he does it each and every day in practice. And so he's a great kid. He's tough. He's competitive, extremely hard worker. Yeah, we like Jam a lot.
Front right side, Nick.
Yeah, a lot of inconsistency going into the final quarter, but in the final quarter, the last 6 minutes, some really good things that worked. What can you replicate from those final 6 minutes that will help you going forward?
Well, I think just simple execution and fundamentals. I think obviously we all know that we had some issues with some penalties and some lapses in execution, and that certainly hurt us in the first 3 quarters of the game. And I thought the guys did a better job of executing simple things well. And we were explosive in the game. We just had a lot of those called back, and so we need to just zero in on the details, the fundamentals, the execution. And there's a lot that goes into that, but I also think that's what ended up hurting us was when we didn't focus on the small things, on the details. We didn't play with good fundamentals and technique. We fouled, we had penalties. And so I thought they did a better job of that, obviously, of just executing simple plays well, and they were helpful.
Go to Mike in the middle here.
What'd you see from Wilkin on film, and just with the 3 holding penalties with him? Is there a teaching point, a coaching point on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in all those moments you're trying to just teach and help a player improve. I think Wilkin cares a whole bunch. Wants to be as good as he can possibly be. And I think in some of those moments, it goes back to what we talked about. And it's not just specifically to him, it's for the whole group. If your fundamentals aren't right, if your eyes aren't in the right spot, you can get out of position. And I think that's what, not just for him specifically, but our whole group, it goes back to footwork, eye discipline, simple things to make sure that you're in the right position to make the play, the right way within the rules. And so that's what I would say to the whole group, is just making sure that we're detailing the right details so that we can execute simple football well. And as we all know, those are, you're a foot off or an inch off or the wrong hand placement away from, not getting called for a penalty. And so That's what we're focusing on, not just with Wilkin, but with the whole group.
Go to the left side, sorry, Tony.
Yeah, what have you seen from Hunter Wohler first? And then second of all, how much can you lean on Coach Hitch just having the familiarity with that secondary, especially the safeties units?
I have a ton of respect for him. I think he's a fantastic football player, and he's well coached. And I also think his instincts show up. Very productive. For him to have the number of tackles that he had a year ago is impressive. And I have a ton of respect for him as a football player, the way he plays the game, the way he competes. I think that's pretty evident and stands out on film. And then Coach Hitch, certainly there's things that you ask, as you can imagine, to try to just understand the scheme. What I would say is that, every year is different for each team. Every group of players is slightly different. Their group that they have this year, there's a lot of returners, specifically in the back end and in the middle of their defense. But then there's some new pieces, and we'll be ready to adjust depending on how they decide to play us. So, but certainly, yeah, there's things that we're, talking to Coach Hitch about relative to, the way that they structure their defense or the calls or whatever that may be. So, yeah, he's a great sounding board that way, and he's helpful that way.
Down the left side, front row, Joe.
Coach, can you speak on the challenges that the shuffling up front gave to the offense, and then really what y'all did to overcome the shuffling, and how close was Elijah to starting in the game on Saturday?
Well, we don't make any excuses. The guys that are out there are starters, and their expectation is that they play well and execute and do their job. And so we don't look for that. We don't, allow anybody in the building to talk about, the shuffling. And I mean, the guys that are ready to practice, that's who we practice with, and we prepare them to execute and do their job. And if they're out there on the field, they're capable of doing it. And so that's really where our focus is. And, as far as availability of players and what that looked like throughout the week, we decided to go with the group that had the most reps together, and moving forward, we'll do the same thing based on, the health and availability of the group.
We've got 3 questions left, so we'll start here with Alex, right up the middle.
The explosive plays have obviously been there, which I'm sure you like, but the short to intermediate passing game, how would you like to see that kind of come along?
I think, I think the down in and down out execution needs to improve, and that's really been a focus for the group because I think we all can see the explosiveness and the ability to score quickly. But, I think us being able to stack plays consecutively together and execute and do your job down in and down out, not just specifically to the short and intermediate pass, but in all areas. That's certainly a point of emphasis this week and moving forward that, we just stack good plays together, and the explosive plays will come in addition to that.
Travion, far left.
Hey, Coach. Can you just speak about what the offense, what's the offensive mindset this week heading in heading into Wisconsin after seeing all the just the small mistakes and stuff like that? What would be the mindset in practice this week?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, to make sure that we're detailing the right details and focus on execution. That's really been that'll be the focus this week, and excited about the opportunity to compete against a great opponent in a great environment, and looking forward to that challenge. And so that'll be the mindset.
All right, we're going to finish up with Katie.
What's going to be the emphasis on ball security after some of the fumbles in the first 2 games?
Well, and I know Coach mentioned this in the postgame. We emphasize ball security each and every day in every drill. And we certainly have periods of practice where we're specifically drilling it. That won't change. It's not like we understand the importance of it. Our players understand the importance of it. The things that came up in the game can't happen. And our guys know that. We know that. So I wouldn't tell you that there'll be an extra emphasis because it's always emphasized at a high level. And so this week will be no different. And so we look to improve in that area.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
everybody.
Coach, if you want to just open with a statement, and we'll go ahead and take some questions.
Okay. First off, to start off, just wanted to take a minute and talk about Q Robinson. His father passed away this past week, and such a difficult thing to go through, the loss of a family member. I can't think of a young man that has handled that better personally and with his teammates. He's a great son and was very supportive for his family and spent time with them this week, and also did a tremendous job of doing the extra things that it takes to prepare for a game. Our condolences go out to him and his family, but just so proud of who he is as a young man, the leader he is for our team. Our teammates, his teammates really surrounded him well this week, and then he went out and played very well for the second week in a row. So certainly want to recognize him. Looking back on last week, our recap of South Florida, one of the things that I told the guys, I said, you're learning lessons and learning how to get better through success and wins. Not everybody gets to say that in college football right now, and so that's important. I thought from a defensive standpoint, I thought we showed up in some critical moments in the game, which was encouraging to see. Some younger players stepped up in those moments as well, and then I thought the leadership of our defense showed out on the sideline and then out on the field as well. We had 8 3-and-outs in the game, at 13 what we call game changers, which I've gone kind of over those things with you guys as well. From a situational down standpoint, I thought we were dominant in the game. We were, I think, 17 of 20 overall on 3rd and 4th downs. We were 3 of 4 in the red zone, holding them to field goals. Really disappointed in the 1 touchdown that we gave up. Thought we should have been better there and given ourselves a chance to get another stop on 3rd down, and so we have to continue to improve. It's not okay to give up touchdowns in the red zone, even though we were able to win 3 out of the 4. No touchdowns again to begin and end each half. That's critical for starting fast as a defense and finishing well. I think in the 4th quarter right now, over 2 games, we're 35-3, which shows that our players are learning to finish. And then zero explosive passes given up, and that's really challenging for an offense like that goes fast. They take shots downfield and do a number of things to force you to get your cleats out of the ground and then capitalize in the passing game. Probably the most disappointing thing was we had a number of explosive runs that were given up. We had a couple misfits. We had 3 times we did not execute our pressure properly, so we had essentially missed patterns in the pressures that we bring, and we've got to be able to capitalize off of those things. And then 2 missed tackles. So from a standpoint of, I thought we let the quarterback, when we call some of these pressures, the intent is to get the quarterback on the ground and make him uncomfortable. And I thought because we did not execute in that moment, we didn't take advantage of that, and thus they took advantage of it in the run game. So those are things that we've got to get cleaned up. Extremely disappointed in the lack of takeaways that we were not able to create. Their team did. They created 3 of them. We were -3 in the turnover margin, which is absolutely unacceptable by our defense. It has to be something that we focus on day in and day out. It's what we preach. It's who we are. It's what we believe in, and it did not show up in this game. And so something that we've got to continue to push and pressure to focus on getting that done on game day. So with that, moving on to next week, review of Wisconsin. First road game for us. I think it'll be a great test going up there into a really tremendous environment. They've got a great atmosphere there, beautiful campus, beautiful university. They've got their traditions in the 3rd quarter jump around. I think our guys got to lean into those things. I think they got to enjoy it and appreciate it and recognize some of the greatness of college football and then go play the game at a really high level. I've always been impressed with Luke Fickell. Have had connections with him over the years. Years ago, when he was at Ohio State, he came down and visited us at Ole Miss, and kind of learned some of the things that we were doing defensively under my dad. Have kind of kept in touch with him over the years, and very impressed with his teams. I think his teams embody, who he is as an individual. Very tough, very demanding of his players, and you can see that there's a toughness and a physicality in the way that they are playing, and I think they're improving in that in year two from what we've seen so far. We're going to be facing a well-established offense. Phil Longo has had success at a number of stops and has had tremendous quarterbacks that he has developed. Obviously, having another one in Tyler Van Dyke, who is developing in their system. You see him starting to lean in even from week 1 to week 2 and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. Think he has had, great answers over the years. So very impressed by Phil and what he's done over the years. And I think, year 2, you're starting to see some of the new wrinkles that they want to do offensively. I think they're effectively running the ball better than what they did a year ago. You can tell that they're schematically focused on that, and their players from a fundamental standpoint have improved in terms of the run game. So we'll have a good challenge for us. I think they've got some impressive skill, some guys that can win one-on-one matchups, and we'll have to do a great job of mixing zone and man coverage in order to minimize their effectiveness in the passing game. So with that, I'll take questions.
Yeah, you mentioned no explosive passing plays given up, but there were a few times where they just weren't able to connect and some busting coverage that way, or just guys who got past their guys. What are some of the teaching points there to make sure that doesn't happen?
So there were 2 times where I thought that guys were down the field. One was they were going fast 3 plays in a row. You've seen it at Oklahoma State was probably the team that was most famous for it. Back before they would, when a guy would substitute, now we give the defense a chance to sub. Well, back in the day, we didn't used to do that. So teams would just run, the next wide receiver out and the next wide receiver out. And that's what they tried to do. And we had a substitution issue there where we didn't feel like we had the time to be able to get somebody back out there. And so we put a young corner in a tough spot where he was kind of in limbo. He wasn't in press coverage. He wasn't in off coverage. And he just got ran by because his eyes were in a bad spot. So the other one was just a technique error where a guy released inside. We were denying the outside release. We forced him to release inside, which is probably the only reason they didn't connect on the ball. We went back and looked at this a long time ago. When you look at inside release fade balls, the ones that you force a receiver to release inside versus if he gets the outside release on you, the completion percentage is far less on an inside release. So that was probably the only thing that saved us. However, we put our eyes in the backfield when we did get beat back inside instead of staying on top shoulder. So those are things that young players have to learn. They have to get corrected moving forward, and so that's really going to be the key is, making sure that those young guys learn from those mistakes.
What's going to be the challenge of not having Justin Jefferson for the first half, and kind of what was your perspective on the play that he got ejected on? Yeah,
we obviously it's always disappointing, right, when you have a dynamic player that is not available for one half of the game. We looked at the play. I looked at it from about every angle that I could. I think we just got to tell the young man, keep playing. So it is what it is. We'll deal with it and get ourselves ready for him in the second half. So.
Coach, after having a chance to watch some film on Wisconsin along with USF, what do you foresee yourself spending the most time on with the defense this week?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of that question?
After watching film of Wisconsin and USF. Yeah.
Wisconsin or USF? Oh, both. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think from the USF game, some of the things that we talked about just in terms of the run fits in particular, we got to get some of those things cleaned up. Really, it was just the explosive plays. They had a number of runs that I thought we played really well, but we've got to do that consistently when teams are going fast. That's really structurally and schematically, that's what USF is built to do. They're meant to try to get you on your heels so that you will misfit something or miss tackle. And I thought they did that a couple of times against us. So we've got to continue to learn from that. Looking ahead to Wisconsin, I think, this is a team that is taking great ownership of the physicality that they play with, their ability to run the football, the toughness that they have and carry. They're big people. I'll never forget years ago, I was at the University of Arkansas, and we had a great team, went to an SEC championship, and ended up playing Wisconsin in a bowl game. We were kind of the biggest team in the SEC and the biggest team, week in and week out that we faced. And you look across the sideline and you thought, oh, they look like us. They're big people. They're massive people. So, and so that's going to be a great challenge for us to be able to match that toughness and that physicality on their home turf. So excited for the challenge.
Hey, Coach, I'm taking you back to week one for a second. We talked to Keon Sabb after the game, and he mentioned you used the phrase E-Bombay with your defense. I'm just curious, when did you start using that, and kind of what does it kind of represent for your group there?
Well, I am the Womack boys. We are Marvel fans, so we love the Marvel movies, and so in the movie Black Panther years ago when that came out, gosh, what was that, maybe 2015, 16, something like that. That movie came out, and, I'm always like, I guess I'm a nerd when it comes to some of those things, so I was like, what does E-Bombay mean? So I look it up, and it's actually I think it's an African Bantu language word that means hold fast the line. And so I thought, what a fitting chant, right, for a red zone defense, right, to hold the line. And so we talk about that. Doesn't matter how they get down in the red zone, whether there's we've turned the ball over or whether they've gone on a 16-play drive and it's 1st and goal from the 5-yard line. Everyone has to E-Bombay. We have to hold fast the line. We have to do our 1/11th to be able to hold the line in that situation. And I think that's something that our players have kind of leaned into over the years. And, we have been successful at a number of different places in the red zone, and I think we're taking the steps in the right direction here as well.
Coach, obviously he's incredibly athletic, but Jihad Campbell, just his mentality of I'm going to make every play that I can. Yeah. What makes him special in that linebacker spot to make those plays?
Well, Jihad is a very gifted athlete, but he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played from a linebacker position. He is relentless in his pursuit of the ball. He plays with an extremely high motor. He's got great juice and energy, and we always talk about effort and finish as 4 to 6 seconds from point A to point B with violent intentions when we get there, and he certainly embodies that. So very proud of the effort that he has played with. I think that's a direct tribute to him leading us in tackles through 2 games as much as anything.
What do you think Tim Keenan did well on Saturday?
Man, so impressed with Tim Keenan. I think fundamentally he is playing with great hand placement, great block recognition, physical up front. He is doing such a better job of disengaging and getting off of blocks from where he was in the spring and where he was a year ago. That was something we really challenged him to be able to create production for himself by finishing plays, right? And I think he has done a tremendous job in that regard. So very proud of the work that he's put in and glad to see that he's being rewarded for that work that he puts in practice every day.
Got time for a couple more questions. Go to Chase on the left.
A couple of the stops that y'all got defensively on Saturday came off the turnovers, right? The second half kickoff, you get the missed field goal, you get the fumble on the goal line, you get a 3-and-out right there. Is there more value defensively in getting a stop off a turnover, and is that an identity builder?
Yeah, I think defenses, you can look at it 2 different ways. You can look at it as, hey, there's such adversity and all the momentum is on their sideline, and versus this is an opportunity for us to regain momentum for our football team, right? And so when you're coming on the field off of a turnover, what we call a sudden change situation, our players have to understand this is an opportunity as a defense to create momentum back for ourselves. The momentum is most certainly going to be on their sideline in that moment. You get offensive coordinators that are going to be a little more aggressive in that moment. They may open up the playbook in that situation. And so it's really critical, right, that you have great communication. You play with an effort that matches the you know, kind of the motivation that they have and the momentum that they have on that side of the ball. And I thought our players did a really tremendous job in those situations, in those moments of getting stops for the most part. We weren't consistent enough in it, but certainly a steps in the right direction.
Curious what you saw in Coach Hitchler that made you want to add him to the staff and coach the DBs here.
Yeah. So Hitch and I had worked together before. Probably the best game day mind adjustment wise that I've been around. He sees things up in the box. Does a great job of being kind of my eyes and ears up there from a communication standpoint on game day. I've been around some really special defensive coaches over the years, and he's probably up there at the top of the list in terms of his ability to create value for as a defensive staff on game day. And so he is somebody I certainly lean on and rely on up there. My dad told me that years ago, if you're going to be up in the box, you better have somebody great on the field. If you're going to be on the field, you better have somebody great up in the box. And I think Hitch does a really tremendous job from that standpoint. You know, one of the ways that I think he creates value for his players is the way he coaches those guys to understand offensive recognition, how to recognize what is going to happen, play with anticipation. You know, we've talked about that before. Defense is inherently reactionary. We're trying to get our guys to play with anticipation. I think he does that as good as anybody. So very, very happy for him to be here with us, and excited to kind of be back in the foxhole with him again.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, Coach, if you want to go ahead and make an opening statement.
Yeah, you bet.
Go ahead and take questions.
Yep. Good morning. Got through the weekend. I hope you guys had a good weekend, and I know you got a lot of information from the coordinators already. But probably one of the things I know I'll get asked is about injuries, and so just hit on a couple guys probably that will come up. Cole Adams got hurt upper extremity injury, and you know, kind of see how he goes through the week here. We wouldn't rule him out, but you know, I think probably be very limited early, and we'll see how it goes throughout the week there. But and then Pritchett played, you know, in the game as you saw last, I think 6 plays or so, and came out good with that. You know, practiced towards the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, a little limited, more limited on Wednesday, and as the week went on, practiced and felt okay about him being out there. Felt good about him being out there, and he came in and did a nice job. And the big thing is that he got through healthy, and that was a key there. And then Caden Proctor, you know, he will continue to work on his functional movement and all that kind of stuff early in the week, and keep progression in a way where I feel, you know, we're going to be pretty dang close by the weekend of getting him on the football field. So I feel like he's coming along real well, especially at the end of last week, working extremely hard to get back out there. I know a lot of the things that both coordinators talked about. I think a lot of the stuff that, you know, needs to be worked on was pretty obvious. I think sometimes you look at a game and maybe statistics don't show the things that we know as a staff we need to work on. I think pretty obvious penalties and take away turnovers, creating takeaways and limiting the turnovers is a high priority. It always is. Not something that we don't take lightly. It's something that's an emphasis every single day. So we'll continue to do that. And there were some highlights I thought that you can take from the game. Both sides of the ball as a team continue to fight, continue to play. Didn't feel like our guys ever came up short with the amount of energy and effort. I think they had a ton of energy and want to before the game. At halftime, thought they regrouped. Thought both sides were holding themselves accountable for the things that they knew they needed to clean up. We cleaned up some of those things, I think, in the second half. Other issues presented themselves, and in the end, though, they're going to find a way. And they kept fighting. They kept playing together. They took it on themselves and individually, their unit, to go make the plays and trust the other side of the ball that they'd get it done as well. So I'm proud of that piece. Tomorrow, go back to work. Today's their day off from practice, and the guys came in yesterday excited, ready to go with the challenge that lies ahead with Wisconsin. And there is no other option other than just go to work tomorrow. And I know we're going to have a great Tuesday. Questions?
All right, thanks, Coach. Start on the right, Charlie.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just given what he went through last week, just how proud are you of the way that Q Robinson played on Saturday and went through that?
Yeah, he's played a couple really good games here in the 2 games we've played. So I'm proud of him. I told him that after the game, and I thought about him a couple times when I saw him out there flying around. And I know there was a couple emotional times I think that he went through in the game, but he's just a special guy all around. It's you see everyone sees him as a player, but being around him and who he is as a person, he loves this program. He is a guy that just everyone looks to as being consistent, I think, and for him to, really get back here, have some urgency getting back here, and feel like he wanted to be around this team the latter half of the week. It just shows everything that I said, about his commitment to wanting to be here and help this program every single day be the best we can be. So, a lot of emotions I know for him, and I was proud of the way he played, and he's done a great job here through 2 games.
Go to the middle of the room to Emily Grace.
Coach, can you walk me through the play calling process and what your input is on each play?
Yeah, Coach Sheridan. You talking offense? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Offense. Coach Sheridan calls the plays throughout a drive. Obviously, I can override something if it is, but I know as a play caller, and having done it for 20 years, that you have to be in a rhythm. You have a plan. In between series, I'll ask, what his thoughts are after they've had a chance to get with the players. Now, especially with the iPads, make get a couple of thoughts together on what they saw, and as he's up in the box putting the next kind of thoughts in the drive together, I'll be on the defensive side, but then I'll flip over. And if there's a takeaway early, sometimes we don't get that chance to talk much, but usually with TV timeouts and things like that, I get a chance to kind of see where his head's at, give some input there. I think there's always, I don't want to say things you're setting up, but I think there's again, I use the word rhythm. I think that's the biggest way to describe it. That is really critical. And when you get too much input from too many people, you start getting out of that rhythm. And I think we've done a great job. That's something I have made a point ever since I became a head coach again, to make sure I do, because I know when I was with head coaches who did that, how much I appreciated that. And I was fortunate for 10 years as an assistant to pretty much have head coaches that let me kind of go about my business the way I thought it needed to be done. So.
Left side, over to Chase.
Coach Womack already commented on the targeting call on Justin Jefferson, but apart from that, can you just discuss his play? I think he had 10 stops and his development over the last week or 2.
Yeah, again, I think that whole linebacking core has done a lot of great things. Justin certainly flying around. We feel great about the speed he brings. He's into it. He's into it not just, individually. He's a guy that's becoming a strong leader in our football team, and the energy he brings every day. I just love having him in this program. He's involved in special teams, and so, not having him out there in the first half will be be tougher. I mean, more, just he's an important part of what we do with different packages, and yeah. So, and unfortunately, that happened late in the game. So, we'll have to work through that here in the first half of Wisconsin.
Stay on the left side with Alex.
You now have 2 games worth of watching film with Jalen Milroe. What do you like from what you've seen, and where do you want to see some improvement from him?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I think about some touchdown throws that he's made. K-Law in the first game, scrambling on the run. The one to let's see, Prentice this week, stepping up in the pocket. I think those are things that I've seen that where he's really improved. He had a scramble to Dupree where he hit him along the sideline. I thought there was another one that he did a really good job, and some other guys could have worked with him a little bit better on a scramble drill. He went to the right, hit Germ on a scramble. And so I think eyes down the field and playing that game that he can play, because people are worried about his legs, where he can run and take off, or he can draw the attention to him and throw it. I think that's been great. When we give him looks where he can make decisions, because there's a lot of times 2-3 choices where he can make, whether it's throw a ball to the perimeter, run a running play. He might even keep it. I think he's getting better with every rep that we do it, whether it's in practice or the games. You're seeing that show up, and we want those options because he can do it with his arms and his legs. And the throw and the touchdown to Ryan Williams, that opportunity to just rip it out there. That's something I think when we first started in spring ball, and I think saw it in fall camp where he was getting more and more comfortable. It's not just confidence in yourself, it's confidence in the guys that are around you. And I think that's the key, and so he's developing that. We're talking through every little detail, not just with him, but we're talking it through with the other positions so that trust can happen on the practice field. We're intentional with that. And so he's I thought, again, this week he made more strides with check and protections with confidence. We can continue to work on that. He had to run around a little bit at times, more than we'd like. But there's a number of factors that come into play. It's not just the offensive line; it's the whole group. And I think the areas you continue to improve. I think we just continue to work together with him to shape and mold. And I think almost every year. I don't care if it's an offense you've been with, and you're in year 2 or year 3. Or more. I think there's an evolution, where you have different personnel than the year before. And right now, we're continuing to find exactly what works for us, what that rhythm is, what he's exactly comfortable with. We aren't going to run something that I think he does a good job of talking and giving us feedback on what he likes and what he maybe is a little bit, hey, let's try to hold off on that as we go through the week. And I love that. I love that, because if there's any question in any player's mind, but especially the quarterback, let's hold off on it. And that's few and far between. But he's done a good job of just giving us feedback on what he saw, and knowing that we can work together to help, get him in the spots that he really wants to be in. So I think we're making progress, great progress.
Front right, Nick.
Yeah, kind of follow up to that. Notice a moment post game where you took a second to talk to Jalen and say something to him, and obviously that's a conversation between the two of you. But what are you willing to share about what your message was to him post game?
Oh, I can't even remember exactly what I said. We've talked in the locker room too. Just I don't remember the exact words. I think it was probably just a lot of like, hey, we're always learning. I think that was the general theme of what I was sharing with him. We're always learning. It's good to grind out a win in the fourth quarter, just something along those lines that, I think it had to do with you keep fighting for this reason. You're going to find a way. You're going to break through at some point if you just keep playing the game and letting the game come back to you by competing.
Over to Tony on the left.
Back to the Jefferson play. What did you see from that play? And then secondly, just as a head coach, it seems like Wisconsin also had a targeting play like that. What do you feel about the way that I guess, targeting gets called and the ramifications of it at this level?
Yeah, I mean, the helmets hit each other, and so we'll wait to get exactly the feedback. There's not much you can do, when you're out there as a coach at that moment. Anything I say isn't going to matter when they're going through their decision. And so, their helmets hit, and now it's just a matter of whether you met any or all of the ways that they determine whether it's targeting or not. So, face mask versus crown, all those type of things. And I know, they got a player that's out too, and I think that was more of a mid-level hit in that game. So.
Stand left side to go to Steven.
Coach, when you have a position group that may be struggling a bit with penalties, like what do you say to that group to keep them calm and keep them mentally engaged?
Well, I think for us in that game, last weekend, we needed to adjust to how it's being called, and I think that's what you try to just, hey, it's getting called, right? Getting called tighter. And, now we're really able to look at replays and understand, if you didn't see it in the game when it happened live or why it was called, because sometimes it's on the other side of the field from where our bench is at, you can go back and you can see the end zone and wide shot and try to determine how tight is it called, and so, trying to stress that, we got to do a good job keeping our hands were inside in a lot of cases. We just kept grabbing cloth longer when they were pulling away from us just for that split second, and, holding getting called. And, unfortunately it brought back, I don't know, this is a rough tally, but I wanted to just kind of do my own numbers. I think it was probably at least 180, 190 yards worth of offense, not counting the yards that we lost because of the penalty assessment, and that's a game changer. In the first half alone, I think it was probably at least 180. So we got to adjust and make sure we're playing the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Just a couple questions left. Let's start with Cody in the middle of the room here.
2 games in, just curious what your assessment of the secondary is so far.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of changing it up, different coverages and different game plans from week 1 to week 2. We got the 2 picks to start off the season, and I thought, they were 15, I think, were they 15 of 35, I think, in the game. That wasn't their strength necessarily, but we took it away from them, and really no explosives from a passing side of the ball for them, passing for them. So I really like that. I think we, different guys are coming up and making tackles. Malachi did a nice job having to come up. Unfortunately, sometimes, the quarterback did break contain and make some plays with his legs, but guys were there to go get him on the ground and live to see another play. And, that's your last line of defense. And I think we've done a good job of only giving up 1 touchdown so far. And so aside from pass coverage, they're keeping the opponent out of the end zone, and in the red zone especially, forcing field goals. So I like where we're at. Got a lot of youth that we're rotating through there. That's not just promising for the growth that they're going to have this year, but promising for the future down the road.
Go to the back middle here.
Hey, Coach. Jonathan Hoppy with WBRC. First road trip for you guys here at Alabama. Obviously, you've coached in some big games. How do you get these guys ready for what'll be a great environment up in Wisconsin?
Yeah, there's nothing like playing at home here at Bryant-Denny, but I think there is something to knowing you're going to go into a great environment. These guys really probably haven't been there. Maybe a couple guys from the Midwest that have seen that or been on a visit maybe at one point. But it's going to be a great atmosphere up there, and it's one that I think when you're preparing to go play those games, and we'll of course have that many times here with the SEC schedule too. That hostile environment, taking it on and knowing that it's kind of you versus everyone there. So I think our guys are looking forward to the challenge. They're looking forward to improving on this last week and knowing that we're going to have to in order to face and get a win versus Wisconsin on Saturday.
All right, let's get one last question on the left side of Jack.
Hey, Coach. Coach Womack touched on it, but what did you make of Tim Keenan's performance, and just have you seen him continue to kind of be a leader for your defense this year?
Yeah, I caught Tim yesterday. I just think we all are on the same page and feeling that he's done a really nice job here the first 2 games as well. Just pushing the pocket and disciplined his assignment. He's just steady as a person, but he's also just steady as a player. Force inside, So his strength is important. He's making sure he always does his job, and you can count on him. So really, really key piece to the success that I think we've had defensively.
Thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you, Roll Tide.